Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spawncast episode 341. Bit of a smaller cast tonight, and we're trying something a bit different with a new streaming platform, mostly because Evan's not here. So who knows what's going to happen tonight? We'll see. Usually he keeps things under control, but it's anyone's guess at this point. And then Sean is apparently getting drunk somewhere as Hulk Hogan. So he's still on Twitter, by the way. It's going to make for a fun night. We'll see what he admits on Twitter then. But let's go around here, starting with Josie. Josie's with us tonight. How we doing, Josie?
I'm great. I had a fantastic week playing Mario Wonder, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, you've already beaten the game, so yeah. That's some of you guys blasted through that game quick. Like, you did it, you beat it. MVG is here. He's beaten the game.
I did beat the game. Love it. Trying to 100% it right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. OJ's here. I don't think OJ's beat. I haven't beaten it either. Don't worry.
No,
So.
I'm trying to 100% as I go. So I got to some areas that are giving me some problems. So they're giving me some problems to 100% like to get through. So I had to double back and just start going through the game, trying to collect everything. But yeah, I'll probably have it beat probably like by the end of the weekend or maybe like my next week, early next week.
I was the weird one who decided to play Spider-Man 2 this week, so I'll talk about some of that. But we do actually had a lot of stuff that happened this week. Both games came out, and I got to say that both of them scoring in the 90s. I'm curious where people's thoughts are on Game of the Year contenders now after all of that. Analogue, I'm sure MVG was all over this, announced their 3D system that's going to attempt N64. You have the Mr. FPGA system, though, and I want to see what your thoughts are on them attempting this now that you've seen that in person. We did have Nate with a report on the Switch 2 and Ray Reconstruction that has me wondering what kind of comparisons we're going to see when this system comes out to something like the PS5 and the Xbox Series. Starfield topped the MPD charts. Pete Hines retiring. Halo and Battlefield having a bit of a comeback. So there's actually a lot to get through tonight, and pretty excited for it. So I do want to give a shout out to the members over on the network, spawncastnetwork.com, patreon.com/spawncast. Of course, want to give a shout out to John O, big supporter over there. And we'll go through some of the other supporters throughout the night so we can highlight each one. But let's just start with Mario Brothers Wonder, since everyone here apparently has played it, mostly beaten it. I spent about 3 hours on it so far. So, and then one of those hours was I attempted co-op with a bunch of kids who have no idea what they're doing. So no progress was made in that hour. So basically I've played probably 2 hours of actual playtime of getting through things. So what do we think of Mario Wonder as it did drop, and it's currently still at a 93, which I feel like somebody here guessed 93. Who was that?
I did. I guessed 93.
Yeah, Nate I think said 94.
He said 94.
MVG, didn't you say 93?
I said
94.
I said 94, and it was 94 for about 5 minutes, and then it dipped to 93.
Well, it went to 95, then it went to 94, then it could still go up to 94. You never know.
It could. There's not as many reviews as I thought there would be already. Like usually that this game is like 100 something plus review type of game. It's only I think like at 80 something. So it definitely could go up or it could go down.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, at this point, it's once you get into the 90s like that, it's just a good game. But
yeah,
I will give it to Josie for now. However, we will see, and if we have to, we'll revisit and move the win over to MVG. But what do we think about this game? Because I'm hearing Super Mario World coming up. That's like a big comparison, which to me is, I still think, the best 2D Mario game personally. I haven't played through Mario Wonder. I assume some of the end levels are ridiculous, incredibly trippy. But what do you guys think of it so far?
Go ahead, Josie.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I played the whole thing co-op, the first run through, and that was like randomly a very, very good experience. Like, I think the fact that they took out bouncing on each other and that you don't really interact like too much, it makes it a lot easier to actually get through everything. And I just overall had a fantastic time. I think it does. It's not like not a 2D Mario game. It still is a 2D Mario game at its core. So it's not like super groundbreaking and redefining that, but it does do a lot of new things and is probably the best 2D Mario we've had, I'd say probably since Mario World on the SNES. Yeah.
Best 2D Mario?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Yeah. No. I mean, I agree. I haven't beat the game when it comes down to it, but when it comes to redefining what 2D Mario does, I think it definitely does that. It redefines what 2D Mario does in a big way that we haven't seen since, like, my favorite game is Mario Bros. 3. That's my favorite one. And I'm the weird one that likes Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, more than Mario World because I'm stupid. So I like those, I like those two games a lot. And it kind of combines those two because Super Mario World 2 is really weird. Like where they have touch fuzzy, get dizzy, those type of stages and all that. And like really weird power-ups and different stuff that you can do. And like the atmosphere is just kind of crazy. And this game kind of has that as well. But then it also has a bunch of cool different like outfits and power-ups like Mario 3 had, that were just kind of like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, and you can do all this different stuff. The badge system, how that plays a part into it, that can like really be cool for speedrunning. I don't know if you guys are speedrunners, but I think that like speedrunning is something that I might want to do in this game, because of the badge system and everything. So for me, I think it redefines what 2D platformers can be for Mario going forward. I do agree it's not quite on the 3D level, right, in terms of what we've seen there, but for a 2D game like this, like I think other developers are going to look at it and be like, hey, like how can we make our own type of, wonder effects or different type of things that affect the stage in this type of way? Because New Super Mario Bros. Was so static, it was such a static cut and paste type of game. And this game isn't anything like that. So that's the cool thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was sort of saying that, like, it's still a 2D Mario game. Like, it's still sort of like it has that base, but it does something very different.
Yeah.
Okay. MVG, what do you got on this? Because you called it a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Josie said. For me, it's the best 2D Mario game since Mario World. By the way, OJ, I love Yoshi's Island as well. It's a fantastic game. Yeah. But yeah, like I think what it really does for the 2D Mario genre is it just brings it, to a modern audience, and it gives it those modern features. Like the thing I really noticed when I first started playing it is obviously the aesthetics, the graphics are beautiful, and we can talk about that. But even the changes they've made to Mario, 2D Mario, in other words, like there's no level time limit anymore. That was the first thing I noticed when I started playing. I was like, there's no time limit. This is fantastic. Now I have the ability to basically take my time and try to find the other Wonder Seed that's in the map. So I love that. There's no scoring system anymore. If you guys notice, there's no score, and I think that's something that has been taken out as well. Even the ability to kind of push the objects around, the blocks and stuff. I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but yeah. There are things that you can push around in the game, which again didn't really have the ability to do that. The other really cool thing is you can warp into, or you can jump into the background in some stages, and you can kind of fight in the background. That stuff was so cool, like the way that they kind of sprung that on you the first time. Like the first time that happened, I was like, wow, that's awesome. And forgive me if that was in the preview event stuff. I don't know, because I never watched any of the previews. There's also the shop where you can basically buy items. You can buy Wonder Seeds. You can buy extra lives and all that sort of stuff. The badges. And the other really cool feature that I love is that it doesn't actually kick you back to the world map when you die. Like, and I mean, some of the things I'm talking about sound so like basic and rudimentary, but when you kind of combine all those things together, you've got a fantastic 2D Mario game. Like, and for me, the actual game itself, the level design, the kind of the variety of the way they mix up all the stages. Like every time you start a new stage, there's something new. There's something different about it. There's always a different Wonder Seed trick or mechanic that's going to happen. You don't know what it is. So all those things combined just make it a truly amazing 2D Mario game. And I honestly, I put it right next to Super Mario World as the best 2D Mario games. Maybe there's a bit of recency bias. Maybe ask me again how I feel about it a year from now, but I can't really see my opinion changing too much. I think it's an absolute masterpiece of a game, and it's even exceeded my expectations, because I was kind of low key excited about it, but I was like, this is going to be like, if this is going to be more like New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, just count me out type of thing. But this has definitely surprised me, and I'm very, very happy with what we got.
Okay. I do think control wise, it's significantly better than what I played with. I mean, it's a lot better, I would say, than what we played with New Super Mario Bros. And I get that those games were, I don't want to say that, but they were good games. But this just feels like they went to another level with it completely. And New Super Mario Bros. Always felt very, I guess, basic, by the books, standard, safe. This is like they just went crazy. Like, you know what? We're just gonna do whatever we want. Here we go.
But we all said that though, right? Like we would, whenever we did talk about New Super Mario, it was always it's okay, but it's just safe. Mm-hmm. It's just safe, and like we were always like Mario Maker, it's okay, but I don't feel like shifting through a million different levels, and there's no reward for Mario Maker, right? Like there's no real. It's just you just kind of play levels, right? So I think that this one actually decided to do some new ideas, and maybe there is a recency bias, but maybe not. Like I can understand that standpoint from MVG, but when you stack them up, like you truly compare them, like okay, well, how does it feel to play? You can go back and you can clearly see the controls in this game are tighter, the physics, the momentum, everything just feels better to play just in general. So I don't think that there will be, and I think as people go through, especially once you get to the harder levels and the other stuff, like people are going to realize, like, oh wow, this really is more, something different, not just New Super Mario. Because I was never
I
a
saw
huge
people
fan.
mentioning the difficulty online a lot, like some of the harder, like the ones that have more stars to them, the levels for the difficulty. They were saying some of the late game stuff is incredibly difficult.
Well, no spoiler here, but you can access some of the stuff earlier if you want, if you do certain things, and you'll just go get like destroyed. You can get destroyed really early, or you can just leave it and then come back later if you want. So there's some level 3 badge challenges right now. I'm trying to do to kind of 100% the game, and it's just killing me. Like I don't even know how to get past some of this stuff, honestly. Like I'm kind of ready just to put the controller down and rage quit, but I want to keep at it. Like I know you can 100% the game, people already have. So there's definitely difficult parts of the game later on, and some of the later badge challenges are brutal.
Yeah, I do think looking at this game, it's one that will definitely age really well, say 15 years from now in terms of the visual style. I look at the visuals in this. I don't think I think you could make a case for this being one of the best looking Switch games right now.
It looked not as good. Like when I played it at Nintendo Live, the demo that they had, it didn't look as good. The Target demo didn't either. But I don't know, maybe it's my OLED, but it looks so much better in terms of what I played. I think it's probably my OLED, but it looks so much better on my OLED than it did when I first played it, or maybe just the old build of the game that they had. But yeah, it looks good. I played it on my portable
it's extremely,
OLED.
It looks very, very clean. Like it's very sharp. I assume it's in or around native resolution for the Switch on the OLED screen in handheld mode, because it doesn't have that blurry look to it there, like we will see with other games that kind of cut down resolution.
It's dynamic.
To make it work.
They Digital Foundry did a little test on.
I didn't see this.
Yeah. It scales. It runs in it runs 1080p docked, and then it also runs 720p native. There are some times if it gets a little bit crazy, it might drop a bit, but then it goes right back. And then there's some times where there might be a couple frame rate drops, but that's limited to the overworld. And like if you activate your map, then go right out of your map. Like sometimes there might be a couple frame drops, but
we're looking then. We're looking for the
they're looking for it. But I mean overall, it runs good. I mean most of the 2D Mario games run great.
Yeah, I mean you could sprint through the level, and I mean I'm not really seeing any slowdown or anything crazy. I mean stuff's happening on screen, but it's nothing noticeable if it is. So
in level it's all set 60. In level it's all 60. There's no drops. It runs flawless in level.
The only time I really notice drops is when you're kind of moving around the overland map, the world map sometimes. But whatever. I mean, there's no real reason that it needs to be running at 60 at that point. It's really about the stages themselves.
Yeah, as long as it's not getting choppy when you're trying to run through and do certain like precision jumps, or like that would get really annoying, obviously. But I think just the speed of the game, the animation, the colors, the shadowing on the characters, and even their reactions to things happening, it's a very high quality effort from Nintendo, like all the way around.
Yeah, it has a lot of like personality and stuff too, which is what so many people are That's like half of this game, honestly, I think, is the animations and just how the characters react to enemies and other things. It's very cool.
What do you guys think about the music? I like the music, but I'm not the biggest fan of the music personally.
I
I like it though.
The quality's good. Like it's high quality music, like on my surround sound. But yeah, I'm not as like I like it because it's got some like cool stuff. But I'm not like to me it's not as good as like Super Mario Bros. 3. Maybe it's not quite as iconic as Super Mario Bros.
Yeah,
3.
I haven't had a song that's jumped out to me and been like, oh, yeah, that's the one right there. I mean, I guess in the first one they have some of those like the
singing piranha
the
plants.
singing that one. That's the
one's
one that
epic.
might stand out to me the most.
Yeah, that was cool.
I don't remember it though. Like I
Really?
can't remember how it goes. I mean, I remember the part in the game. I just can't remember what it sounds like.
I feel like the first level, that song may be the most memorable to me right now. But maybe there's some stuff at the end game that I'll be like, oh, okay.
There's an underground, like in one of the first parts, like where you go underground, and that song's really good. Like,
that is good. I like that.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite one so far.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, that one's really good. So there are some here and there, but maybe not quite as iconic as Super Mario World or some of the other or maybe we need to play more. But yeah, I agree with MVG. Like in terms of like not quite as good as some of the other tracks, but high quality music though, nonetheless.
I did play some of the co-op stuff. Josie, you said you played it fully co-op.
Yeah, I played the entire game co-op.
Okay, how'd that go for you?
It was great, honestly. I mean, I played a co-op game that I've had that much fun with since It Takes Two, and so
okay.
I loved it, and I thought it was great.
It didn't get hectic for you, like didn't get all crazy or anything. No.
I mean, when you're moving, there's one person moving the screen, and so sometimes that can get really annoying.
That.
But like, as long as we were fairly, it was great, and I mean, I wasn't a kid, so I mean, I think that helped because the person I was playing with sort of knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it gives you some leeway. Like basically, if you're off screen for too long, they'll turn you into a ghost, and if you're the ghost and you just touch somebody who's not, they'll just bring you back. So you just come, but if your timer counts down, then you lose a life. But it wasn't too hard to just, if you saw they were a ghost, to run over and revive them really quickly. So they at least kind of came up with something to give you a little bit of a leeway there. But like, there's not a lot of collision or anything with people. Like you're not gonna like kill the other person by jumping on them necessarily, or that I
thank God, because that was awful. I hated that in the new Super Mario Bros. Stuff. It drove me crazy. It made me like never play those online.
I didn't try the other one though, where you would have like silhouettes of people running alongside of you.
I tried it.
Signs. Okay, I haven't had a chance to try that at all. I was curious how that worked out.
It's stupid. But it's
really? I feel like that'd be fun with the community. Have a bunch of people playing with you.
The silhouette stuff, like there's just like a bunch of people just running around, right? And like those standees you can buy, you can do that, and like you can accumulate little like helpful points and stuff. So I mean, it's there, right? But I mean, playing with your friends in terms of the online play, that can be fun. Like if you really want to just like set it up, play like with Spawncast, whatever. I think that can be really fun. But just having people just run around, like, I mean, it's okay. It's a nice little little extra feature, to have in the game. Like I don't think it's bad. I just it's kind of weird. You just see a bunch of people run around.
Yeah, I was looking at this game because I was trying to come up with any negatives for it, and I don't know. The game's just it's just fun. I don't know. Maybe it's because I go into a 2D Mario game and I'm not expecting like the crazy narrative side of it or any kind of like. Does anyone go into this thinking there's any kind of real story? I feel like no, but
it's
I mean,
almost. Go ahead, Josie.
Sorry, I was gonna say there's more here of a story than most. Oh.
Yeah, Bowser's a castle.
Yeah.
Turned into a castle, yeah.
What were you gonna say?
There's a lot of dialogue.
I was just going to say, I mean, for me, it's almost the perfect 2D Mario game. Like, I don't really know what else you can kind of give 2D Mario at this point. Like, I think the only thing that, like I said, it's not a negative thing, but like I said, the sound, the music probably could be a little better. But, that's just my opinion. Someone else may love the music. So, that's just really an opinion more than anything else. And for me, I just don't know what else they could have done. This is like the best 2D Mario game that we've had, for a long, long time. So that's really all there is to say. I mean, I don't know where they take 2D Mario from here. I'm sure the next game, wherever that will be, they'll come up with some new gimmick or new way to play Mario 2D games. But for me, Mario Wonder is it's going to age like fine wine. It's a beautiful game. It's awesome.
I mean, I assume it's gonna be a while before we see another one, since they went back to the Wii U. New Super Mario Bros. Is like the last one technically, because otherwise we had a port to the Switch, so that's 10 years. Might be another 10 years before we see another brand new one.
Could be.
So.
I mean, we got 3D Mario rumored, right?
Yep.
To come, so
I think it makes sense. 3D
Mario,
2D Mario, 3D Mario, 2D. Although we'd also get like 3D Worlds, so you gotta get that mix between two. But I don't know, when 2D Mario shows up, it's generally at least high quality. In this one, I don't really see anyone talking about any kind of bugs or weird stuff happening, no crashes, anything like that. So.
Nothing. I don't know about you guys, but I've had no crashes. It's just been flawless, honestly.
Not a single one, but I tried to crash it.
Yeah.
I tried to put it like, you know what you can usually do is like you can put your Switch in like sleep mode, put it on the dock, pull out the Ethernet port, then take it back up and see what happens.
Yeah,
I tried.
Yeah.
They test they test for that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, usually that can crash your Switch. Like if you do that, a lot of games will crash if you do stuff like that, right? If you just pull it off the dock, right, and pull out the Ethernet cord, if it has like online connectivity and like do stuff like that, it'll usually crash. But it passed that one, so I was like, okay.
How long did it take you guys to beat it? Or MVG, how long did it take you?
It took me 7 hours to beat it. And now I'm trying. Now I'm trying to 100% it, and I've played for about 11 hours so far. I've heard you can 100% it in about 12 to 15, so I'm still on it.
Found it. That's the negative. It's too short.
What about you, Josie? How many hours?
It took like 8 hours, but there was a lot of just like dying because of co-op stuff. So I think that was
the camera kind of going on.
Well, it just like go too far to one side, and one of us would get left and just drop into lava or something. But yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I'm gonna play it again, so it's very replayable, I think.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, Mario Wonder out now, 93 on Metacritic. We're gonna talk about some of the Game of the Year stuff in a minute here, because I feel like that list is getting harder and harder to make. But I do want to talk about Spider-Man 2 as well, because that is out, and there's two sides to this whole thing that I wanted to go over, because MVG is about to rain on my parade as I talk about this game.
No,
which is fine. It's fine, because
I
have questions too. Don't worry, MVG.
I'm not. I haven't played it yet, so I can't really speak on it too much. But go ahead.
My PS5 says I'm 7 hours in, according to the dashboard. So I've, according to Twitter, I am 80% done the game. It's a lot of dialogue around this game in just 2 days, with apparently a bunch of people already beating it. I don't know, but 7 hours in, and so first of all, I did like Spider-Man on the PS4. I like Miles Morales. I went back and was playing some of the remaster to get ready for this one, and there is a clear difference between them in terms of visuals, which you would expect. This one is a lot faster. And visually speaking, the city itself is much more dense. There are definitely way more things happening around you as you're going through the city. But they have done an incredible upgrade on the traversal, so getting around is a ton of fun. Like, I find no need to fast travel at all in the game, even if you unlock it, just because you have the ability to use wingsuits and like these wind tunnels, and you can like have electrical jumps mid-flight, and you can go flying across the city in no time. And I do wonder, like MVG, they've discussed things like the SSD now in the PS5 versus the mechanical hard drive in the PS4, if that's been opened up somewhat because of that. I mean, when you fly through this city with like the slingshot, I mean, you go flying. It is incredibly fast. But I've enjoyed at least getting around the city. I will admit, though, there are parts of the game that feel very much just like the Spider-Man game we played on the PS4. The combat is still kind of that Arkham style combat, and they have a lot of gadgets and little special moves they throw in there, but it's a lot of tech-based stuff. So I don't have as many web moves as I do just throw this gadget out there and it will pull people together, or it'll have lasers that shoot out. And I almost feel like a mix of Spider-Man and Batman with how I've been playing through the game so far, as mostly Peter, but then you also jump to Miles, so they'll jump back and forth based on the story. And I mentioned I'm 7 hours in right now. I think I'm just about to get to the point where I get like the symbiote suit. So I've been doing a lot of side quest stuff as well. I feel like this is a game where I think some mentioned to get the platinum trophy is like 30 hours. I can see that based on what I've been doing so far. But the story, I think, is the main thing that's going to pull me through this game. And I do admit, I feel like if this wasn't a Spider-Man game, I think it would just be viewed as a very standard open world style game, because a lot of that's still there. You have a big open world kind of with that city, and then you have points that are basically mini games that then give you things to upgrade your characters. And that's the thing I would put a knock on this for, is I don't feel like they've done a lot to necessarily push open world stuff forward. But
they just refined what they had with, which is still okay. I mean, that's
heavily refined it. But as someone who enjoys Spider-Man and was really intrigued by the story, I like what I'm seeing so far. The pacing is fast. They have the one thing I will say, they are trying to hit every single note with the supervillains and the heroes. There's a lot of people in this game, and I wasn't expecting as many to be there. It's kind of odd that I've already come across so many in the first maybe half of the game. But it's very quick, point to point to point to point. So it's interesting that I'm seeing so many bugs, though, MVG. And you brought this up to me, and then I went looking, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pay attention as I go through, because I will say here, I have run across 3, maybe 2.5 bugs. All right.
Okay. I saw people putting up compilations, John. I didn't know you can't trust everything that people put up online these days. Right?
I have some questions for people putting these compilations up. Okay, so as I mentioned, about 7 hours in, I've done side quests, I've done main story missions. I've come across 2 main bugs. One was funny because I did one of those side quests where there's an assault, and then it breaks off into a chase where you're trying to follow them on the car and stop them. The car was parked against a wall. It had nowhere to go, so it just drove through the wall. It was just through the building and then busted out the other side. But it basically clipped through to get there. So I was like, all right, I guess that's kind of funny. The other one, though, I beat up a bunch of enemies in an area, and it was supposed to then trigger the next event, and it never did. So I had to restart the mission. I stood there forever looking around. I don't know if one of the enemies fell through the floor and I just couldn't find them, but that actually made me have to restart from a save point because it was just stuck. And then the other one I found, I happened to record it on my PS5. There was a glitch in the corner on a building where it was flashing. And it was a big one. This is flashing, little texture. But I have not seen, some people are posting glitches of these people's heads out of their bodies, floating. And I haven't seen anything like that yet. But I will pay attention.
Have you seen the cube? Seen the cube?
Okay, I'm curious about this cube thing because people keep posting it, but I feel like I keep seeing the same clip over and over again for it.
Well, I've seen 3 separate clips.
Okay.
Max posted a clip as well, and 2 other people. I mean, I think what's happening here, which is what usually happens, is there's probably 5 or 6 kind of isolated things that people are just either just signal boosting or they're discovering themselves and they're like, yo, what's going on here? So it makes it sound like this is a much larger problem than what it really is. But I will also say, if this cube thing is legit, and look, there's no reason why it shouldn't be, especially, we've seen it from a couple of different people. And some of the other glitches that I've seen, it's coming out a little hot, in my opinion. I feel like maybe it should have been a little bit more polished, and maybe we were led to believe it was. I don't think there's any real cause for concern. Like you said, John, if you're playing it and you're 7 hours in, you really haven't experienced anything, then most people are going to have the same experience as you. So it's not really a huge deal. But I also do kind of question, did they kind of try to get this game out quicker than normal? Maybe they could have left it in the oven and released it in February or March of next year. And I still think, obviously they want it for the holiday, but I still think the game would have sold a lot, and it will sell a lot either way. But anyway.
I think you're onto something, MEG, because I feel like Sony thinks they need this game badly right now.
They do, because they don't have anything.
Well, and they have high forecasts for the PS5 currently, 25 million this fiscal year, and I think they fell behind it a little bit. And well, we're gonna have that PS5, the Slim, coming up. There's a Spider-Man bundle apparently that's also showing up a few days before the official Slim release date. So they're putting this game with their new system. They're trying to do a lot to push Spider-Man for the holidays. So I think you're right. They're like this. It has to come out now, and that's just kind of the way it is. But here's the thing that's weird to me. People are trying to figure this one out. Reviewers really didn't mention bugs at all. And I don't know. There's a day one patch. Some are theorizing that the day one patch did actual damage to the game as opposed to fixing it or helping it. It seems weird that so many reviewers either didn't get the bugs or it wasn't as bad or they just glossed over it. I'm not sure, but
it's hard to really say what's going on here. You know, like there is some speculation. I know John Linneman from DF tweeted that he suspects maybe the patch kind of regressed some things and caused some bugs. And that could well be the case. But it could also be a case of reviewers just kind of race through the game as quickly as they could and, you know, made their reviews, you know, available as soon as they could, right? Or for the embargo. So it's very hard to say because none of us have access to that, you know, that version 1 patch, I guess. Or the base version that came with the game. So I don't know, but it seems like there are some bugs in this game. I don't think it's a big deal, and I'm sure Insomniac will get around to fixing all those. But I think, you know, my big question for you, John, is, and I don't want to stir the pot, but like Assassin's Creed Mirage was a similar game in terms of length than Spider-Man, and it cost was it $50? So Spider-Man 2 is a $70 game, and it's the same length. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that Spider-Man 2 shouldn't have been $70? I mean, it's always going to be because Sony's going to price it at 70, but do you think it's worth $70?
I think if you're a Spider-Man fan, you've probably already decided it's worth that money. And if you enjoyed the Spider-Man on the PS4, Miles Morales, you probably already decided, yeah, whatever. Okay. I will say they definitely went to the next level with this game in terms of the presentation and like the big spots. Like we kind of had some of that with Spider-Man on the PS4, whether it was grabbing the helicopter with all the webbing or fighting some of the big bosses towards the end. In this one, though, immediately they start you off, and people are saying it's one of the best openings they've seen in a game, and I can kind of agree with that because it does have that blockbuster feel. Like Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think is good for its price point. It doesn't have anything like the first hour in Spider-Man. It's not even close. Like the opening, if you just fire that game up, play for an hour, you're going to be like, okay, I kind of see that Insomniac was trying to take it to the next level here, and they consistently do that throughout the game. But there are points in it where there are low spots, and it's very contrasting. I will say peaks and valleys really in the game for kind of the tone and some of the pacing. But I think when it hits with some of those spots, you go, okay, I get it. So that's one of the reasons MVG, I said fire it up, give it like 2 hours, and tell me what you think, because I want to see what your thoughts are on that opening, because the opening was pretty good. I'm probably get it before Thanksgiving. I'll check it out. Yeah, the opening, I got to see how the ending is, and I feel like there is a twist coming up based around that's obviously the Venom, the symbiote. I think there's a twist coming, and I'm curious how they handle it because they're kind of bringing a bunch of different people together. So I will reserve full judgment for that. I'm going to beat the game probably in the next couple of days because I am very intrigued just going through it quickly. But some people asked about the progression in the, like, what you do with your skill points, or you have multiple skill trees. So you have one for Miles, one for Peter, and then you have one that's shared between the two, and you can just dump points into them as you go. So when you level up, you don't actually get more powerful. Like in Spider-Man on the PS4, you would get more health for a level. You'd be stronger, maybe hit harder for a level. There's an entire separate skill tree just for that even. Then you have your gadgets, and then you can also unlock suits and then styles for your suits. So there is a lot of stuff you can just kind of unlock as you run through it.
I have heard about the suits, and you can confirm this for me. In the first Spider-Man game, the suits also had abilities, or, you know, like buffs and stuff you could get depending on the suit that you equipped. In this one, they're purely cosmetic. Is that correct?
Yeah, they removed they removed the skill or buff being married to that suit. So you can basically have your character look however you want without worrying that, oh, I have to wear this for this specific moment. Those are separated, and basically it's in the skill trees and passive skill trees that you have in your gadgets. So it kind of leans in the idea of you being able to customize as much as you want, because each suit also has a style tree to it. So you might like maybe a noir suit or something, and then you can take that and change the color scheme and stuff based on ones you unlock. So I will give him that. There is if you enjoy like some of the history for Spider-Man, some of the offshoot stuff, Spider-Verse stuff even, you're going to find a lot of that in here from some very offshoot spots of the Spider-Man lore. So I think for that, people will get a kick out of it.
I'm super excited for this game, honestly. I didn't think I was going to be as into it as I am, but after like hearing about it so much and stuff, and I love Miles Morales, like I've said, and so I'm definitely, and now that I beat Mario Wonder too, I'm like,
I think you'll get an absolute kick out of this game, Josie, if you liked Miles Morales. This is a game you should go to immediately and don't even look back. It's just play the first 2 hours. Tell me what you think. Okay. I say that to everybody about this game. Play the first 2 hours and then let me know.
Do you think it's better than the first Spider-Man game, John?
Yeah, from what I've played so far, yeah. I mean, like, even they have some pretty interesting things with the side missions in the first Spider-Man game. You would go there and it was cookie cutter, very basic, you knew what to expect. There have been times where I've gone to some of these missions and they've almost like merged together. It's very weird, where you have to basically take a point, but then another faction will end up near it and they're kind of warring together. And then I turn around and Miles will be there too, like as the computer controlled character. And he just happens to show up and help you out because he was patrolling in that area. And you can randomly do combo moves with him and you guys will like high five in the middle of the fight as you both like throw a person against the wall and say, it's pretty cool. Like there's some fun time. Like that's just all spontaneous. So there are some cool moments in there. But yeah, I think the story in this MVG compared to the first one is way more interesting with some of the stuff they're pulling out for it. And yes, they're showing up with Venom, and that's kind of like the ace up the sleeve. I get it, but I still want to see how it turns out. So
how long is it?
There are some people who are rushing through it in like 8 or 9 hours, I think.
Shit. All right.
But as I mentioned, I haven't even gotten the symbiote suit for Peter, and I'm like 7 hours in. But I'm also going off and I think to 100% the game, it's like 30 hours or so.
Okay.
Like to do everything, and you did everything in Miles Morales, didn't you?
Yeah, I 100% in that game.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm gonna check it out for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's a good pickup. I do. I'm enjoying it, getting a kick out of it, but I have to see how it turns out. I'm curious what happens with some of these characters. They could always ruin it with the bad story point or something. So we'll see. My fear is that I don't know yet because we just seen the trailers. My fear is that Venom is in the game for like an hour. Kind of like when we saw the Spider-Man 3, the movie, Venom was in it for like the last 20% of the movie and that was it. That's my fear for this, is that he's barely in it. Like actual Venom, not like symbiote suit Peter or anything. So.
And now Wolverine is next.
Yeah,
How do we feel about that after this?
I feel like Wolverine won't be a big open world style game. I kind of feel like that's going to be
story driven.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like that's going to be more over the shoulder, closer, like more claustrophobic kind of game. I don't think it's even going to be as big as something like Ratchet and Clank. I think it's be even smaller than that. So I don't really know why you'd have an open world with Wolverine. Like he doesn't, I feel like his traversal wouldn't be like Spider-Man or anything like that. So
yep.
I feel like it's going to be, I think it'll be I'm hoping it's mature rated and they just go all out with it. You know, I want to see like him just hacking up everybody, doing some crazy counters where they go and swing and he puts the claws through their hand or something to stop them. Just whatever. Just go wild with it. So I'm feeling more confident now than ever with them doing Wolverine, though. I will say that. So,
what else has Sony put out this year?
Spider-Man 2.
Nothing.
And Horizon Call of the Mountain. And
VR games.
There was something else. Was that it? No, I guess it was Horizon Call of the Mountain and Spider-Man 2. So,
best game on PS5 this year, probably?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's better than, well, I mean, again, I have to beat it. I can't say that yet. I was going to say it might be better than Final Fantasy 16, but I have to beat it first. And get an idea as to what happens.
Why haven't you beat Final Fantasy 16 yet? The game came out.
No. I have to beat Spider-Man 2. I already beat Final Fantasy 16. I was going through New Game Plus and stopped halfway through that.
Oh, you're going through New Game Plus on Final Fantasy 16.
I was, and I stopped because I realized everything's still just a damage sponge. Yeah. So
were you playing on the hard difficulty on New Game Plus?
Yeah, they have like the Final Fantasy like difficulty or whatever. Because I was gonna build the ultimate weapon, but you don't get the ultimate weapon until you basically get to the end of New Game Plus, and I could have used it the whole way through New Game Plus. So.
That's not damage sponge is not too bad. I play Xenoblade, so that's like massive damage unless you know like exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, so I got to see how this turns out before I say it's better than Final Fantasy. It's better than Forspoken. I'll say that. It's better.
I picked that up for $17.
Nice.
Last week.
Not bad. Not bad.
It's still not good for $17, but it's better than it for $70.
Dude, I think it's my type of game. I'm probably going to enjoy it, to be honest.
Oh no, it's much better. It's much better now. The game is actually a lot better now than it was at launch. Like they fixed up a number of things with the game. So
I thought about going back to look at it, update it, and just see what's going on there. We'll see. There's a lot happening right now, and I'm not like, I got to get back to Forspoken. So, we'll see. Maybe that'll be it. Maybe that's a good first or second week of January game when we got time and nothing's happening. Yeah, we'll see. Actually, let's talk about the updated game of the year contenders, because now we have Spider-Man 2 at a 91. We got Mario Wonder at a 93. Do those immediately get thrust into the game of the year nominations?
They have to, right?
Yeah, I think so. You have to put them in there now. But then
how do we make the list then? Because something's out.
You got two Nintendo. You got two Nintendo games in the Game of the Year conversation. I mean, when does that happen?
2017 all over again.
Yeah, man.
It's gonna be Starfield. That's the game that's gonna.
Everybody is thinking it. I feel like everyone's thinking that. That's like, oh man, Starfield's really getting left out. Oh, but MBG.
Wait, hold on. Can we agree? Can all four of us agree right now that there is no indie darling this year? Like, there's no room for indie darlings this year, right?
There could. I mean, Sea of Stars is good enough.
I got an indie darling set up. I'm giving it to Cocoon.
No. There's no indie darlings this year.
I would say Sea of Stars.
It's too stacked.
You might be right, MBG. You might be right.
It's too stacked. It's too stacked.
The year is stacked, though. I mean, I agree, but if there was an indie darling this year, I would say Sea of Stars would be that. It's 89. It's just an incredible game.
Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. All right, so let's look at this really fast, okay? The ones that I feel like are going to be in many people's minds locks at this point. Okay, Mario Brothers Wonder, Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2. Do those four sound like, okay, this is probably going to be voted in by the judges, the jury, whatever, the media?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's two more slots left.
You've got to have Street Fighter. In my opinion, you got to have Street Fighter 6.
I feel like fighting games never make it in.
I don't give a damn if fighting. No, Street Fighter 6 has got to be in there. It's got to be.
I don't think it is. I think that's going to be game or like this fighting game of the year kind of thing. That and Mortal Kombat will probably be together in that category.
You reviewed way better than Mortal Kombat.
Listen, I know Resident Evil 4 remake was a long time ago, or it feels like a long time ago, but man, that game is so that has to be in the conversation. It has to be in there.
Man, right? Look at this.
I would
tough,
put those
dude.
two. I would put Resident Evil 4 and I would put Street Fighter. I think those two.
There it is.
Games that I would put in there.
That's the document right there.
The lowest rated game on that.
I use WordPad and everything.
This is 91 with Spider-Man. That's the lowest rated game on that list. Well, no, I think Street Fighter's a 92. I don't know. Either way, it's above 90. So
I'm gonna put it in the archive. We got to put. All right, what are we putting there? Let's chat think.
Honestly, I think Starfield's going to be in there.
Oh,
Yeah, dude.
I think it's going to be in there.
You really think Starfield's going to find its way in there? Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
even though the Metacritic is a little lower,
little.
We've seen Control and other games that haven't scored that high get into the conversation. The other game that I keep thinking about in my head is Armored Core as another one.
Dude,
potentially.
You know how far we need to go on like scores to get to start. You know how many things we have to pass to get to Starfield?
There's a lot.
I just feel like
I
if
just
we're
looked
gonna
it
give
up.
it to Microsoft, throw it
Street
in
Fighter
there.
is a 92.
Yeah. I mean, Resident Evil 4, the Resident Evil 2 remake was nominated when it came out.
Yep. RE4 remake in there.
I feel like RE4 has to be in there, doesn't it?
I think so.
You
I personally
gotta
think
put
so.
Resident Evil 4 in there.
Got to put it in there.
Okay, Resident Evil 4 is in. There's one slot left. This is our list that changes every week.
What if hold on? What if Alan Wake 2 gets a 90?
yeah.
91
So if Alan Wake
next
2
week?
gets anything above, I'm gonna say an 86, Starfield's out. I don't know where Starfield goes then. I'm sorry.
Alan Wake 2 for sure. If that's like high 80s, I think they'll probably give it to that because obviously it's Alan Wake is back right after all these number of years. So, which I think it's gonna review really high. I think it's gonna review high enough.
Josie, which one I know which one Josie wants to say. Go ahead, say it, Josie.
Well, I'm not gonna say Pikmin 4.
You're allowed to say Pikmin 4?
I don't. That's not realistic. I would like it to win, but I don't think so. But what about like Final Fantasy 16? Is that gonna be in the conversation?
You know, I liked Final Fantasy 16.
I initially had it in there, but that was before Mario Wonder and Spider-Man both scored extremely high. I don't have a spot for it anymore. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's gonna be in the conversation. Like it's like when they deliberate, who is going to be in there. I think it's going to come up. But yeah, like now that Mario Wonder and Spider-Man, I think that the media likes Spider-Man and Mario Wonder more than Final Fantasy. That's the vibe that I'm getting, from the scores and just from the general thoughts.
We're skipping Diablo 4 also.
People in the chat saying that RE4 is a remake. Yes, it is. So was Resident Evil 2, and that got a Game of the Year nomination.
It was that against Sekiro, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sekiro. Yep. That was the debacle of 2019. There is what's it called? Golden Joystick and other places actually voted for RE2 remake as their Game of the Year. Like it actually won major Game of the Year stuff from various publications. So I get that it's a remake, guys, but it was nominated and it actually had a really good chance to win. And other places did give RE2 remake Game of the Year, like other major outlets did. So it's very much possible that RE4 remake.
Roy says if RE4 is in, Metroid Prime should be in too.
No, there's a difference.
That's a remaster. That's a remaster.
Yeah, I mean, RE4 remake. It's a complete remake. They've completely overhauled some things. Metroid Prime, they didn't even add an autosave to that game. Like they didn't even they add literally almost the graphics look better. There's better control options. You have some narration that was maybe in one PAL version or something I don't know. But they literally didn't add anything outside of that.
Seen a lot of Hi-Fi Rush in the chat.
And Lies of P.
Lies of P is a good one too, though.
Lies of P is going to be the fan voted game of the year.
That's a good game.
Yeah, there's so many people that love that game so much.
Hi-Fi Rush is a good one. I wonder if it's gonna fall kind of into the background a bit. Again, there's a lot of stuff out right now, and things are hitting all over the place.
I kind of agree with OJ. I think Street Fighter has a chance. I mean, isn't it the highest rated game on Famitsu or something?
It's
it got a perfect score or something.
Famitsu doesn't count. I don't know if they get a vote for.
I'm just saying,
it's highly praised.
Here's the problem with Street Fighter. You've got outlets like the Hollywood Reporter and the LA Times and all these adjacent video game publications, right?
Yeah.
None of these outlets have played Street Fighter 6 as good as it is, but they've all played Tears of the Kingdom. They've all played Spider-Man. They've all played Resident Evil. They've all played Mario Wonder. That's how you have to think about this stuff, in my opinion. It's not about, the Metacritic is important, but it's also the reach of people that you're getting to as well.
I agree. It's just that Street Fighter does have the name. People do know of, this is Street Fighter, right? And it's doing well. So I agree. I just think that, man, when you come back like this with this quality of a game, it'd be almost not fair to not have it in there, considering what it was able to do. This is the best fighting game that we've seen in traditional fighting game that we've seen in quite some time in terms of score and The net code is impeccable. It's really good. Everything, like they've even got a stupid single player mode in there. That's like silly fun, right? Like they pretty much hit everything that you needed to hit in the game. The graphics are beautiful. You know, there's so many good things about Street Fighter, and it reviewed that high too. So it's not only that good in terms of like the gameplay, but then it's also that good in terms of like the reviews and what people were seeing with the game. I do agree with MVG though, like it could be snubbed for some other type of game because it is a fighting game. I mean, we haven't seen a fighting game nominated since I think Smash was the last time back in 2019. That was the last time that one was nominated.
Smash win though?
No, it did not.
No.
Sekiro won that year. Yeah.
I don't hate the Hi-Fi Rush nomination if it comes down to it. If that popped up, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's just fine. But I got to see what happens with Alan Wake 2. I think that is still a big wild card right now because it could surprise some people.
There's a lot of marketing around Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
I think they want that big score, so we'll see. We'll see next week.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. We will. Then what? Star Ocean and Mario RPG next month.
Yeah, and my stupid self playing Naruto, so I'm just gonna put myself through hell.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. Like I said, I would not mind that if that was there. I thought it was creative. It was fun. It was interesting. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. If that was in there.
But then when you're talking about the real game of the year, like what do you guys think is gonna take it?
I think most people believe it's coming down
Baldur's Gate.
to either Zelda or Baldur's Gate.
I think Baldur's Gate's gonna win.
Over Zelda.
That'd be big because Zelda usually wins when it's in like game of the year contention. But I don't know. Baldur's Gate has a lot of momentum behind it right now.
Yeah, I think
yeah, that's true.
I've been playing it. I really like the game. I don't really know which way it's going to go, but it's probably going to be between those two. I think flip a coin, honestly.
Yeah.
Personally, if it was me, I'd probably give it to Zelda. But I am playing Baldur's Gate, and when I beat the game, I'll definitely have more to say. I like it. It's a good game.
Okay. Good stuff. Let me look through. Let's see. I think I can actually do this here. I feel like I can go through and look at. I think I can look at the super chats from StreamYard. I can look at that. See, that makes it pretty easy. Okay. Let me see. What was the? Here we go. This one is from Tijo. Show. Oh, look at that. Any of you played the Star Ocean games on PSP? Second Evolution was my favorite JRPG on the system. Played it like 50 times. Too bad the remake would not include the anime cutscenes from that version. I actually didn't get a chance to play much of Star Ocean on the PSP. I played it on the PS1, the PS2, and unfortunately the Xbox 360. That was not. This did very.
Which Star Ocean did you play on? You played Star Ocean 4?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The one that I remember liking most recently, I guess, would be Till the End of Time. That was on the PS2. That's the last time I was like, you know what? I feel like this is a good game.
It's all good, John. Just grab a dictionary, open up the definition of mid. Bam. Star Ocean is like.
I played the most recent one.
Right there.
Star Ocean. Was it Divine Force or something?
The Divine Force.
It's not very good either. I mean,
I got it for $10, so I'm happy.
Hey, they're very middling RPGs, unfortunately. But the one coming up is actually really good. I played the demo and I enjoyed it, so I am really looking forward to it.
Second Story R is really good. People think that that's the best Star Ocean game anyway, and now they're remaking it and making it even better. So, yeah.
Let's see. This from Sean. It says, do you think a new Guitar Hero would have the option to use a phone as a controller, and would it be on xCloud?
Hopefully not. That'd fuck up the game.
A phone as a controller?
Be horrible.
Interesting. You use the phone as a microphone, I guess. You could do that.
How would you
do it as a controller? I'm trying to think how you'd even make that happen.
They had a Guitar Hero on the DS, and you
attached
it, and then you held it like this, and then you went like that. And that's the only way I can imagine that working.
That was a really difficult. I remember that too, Josie.
There was like a little button attachment that you plug into the cartridge, right? And then you use your finger for like the touch screen.
You held it like this. It had like a wrap around it, and it was so because you'd strum the touch screen.
Yeah. That
one a lot actually.
Did you really? Oh gosh, we'd get that traded in, and I'm like, this looks devastating.
I had like 3 games on my DS when I was a kid, and that was one of them. So.
This is from Truly Epic. It says, will Film Wave make a return on the network? Maybe. The next Boys season's coming up. And Invincible's coming up, too.
Oof. Sign me up for Invincible and sign me up for The Boys.
There it is. Okay. I like it. Now we just need Dragon Ball to come back. I know there is a Dragon Ball series coming back. We need Super to come back.
We'll get
MVG on that one. He has no context of anything Dragon Ball related, and we'll make him watch Dragon Ball Super and give his thoughts on it every week.
You should no. You got to make him watch Dragon Ball Z. He needs to know who Krillin and Nappa are. I'm
just gonna say it sucks. I'm just gonna say it sucks every single episode.
We'll get MVG like the dragon like shirts that people in middle school used to wear all the time. The button downs with like the shiny dragons around them and stuff.
Yikes.
Those were popular back in the day.
Are you sure? Where's RGT at? RGT said no. Am I allowed to wear those shirts? Or
yeah,
no?
Those are people. It used to be a big thing back in the day, in like the early 2000s when that was rolling on Toonami. That was it right there.
Good
that was
God.
it.
You spend one whole day screaming on the next episode.
Telling you.
Like
Hulk Hogan says, "Hey brother, shout out to John MVG Josie." Is that Sean?
Of course he wouldn't say. Of course he wouldn't say shout outs to me. Of course I'd be left out.
X Trash lost to King Nintendo. Have you seen Xbox? Let's see. Kopi on DCG's Twitter clowning him and saying Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonders reviews scores don't matter since their Starfield got an 83. I have not. I've not seen that, but I don't doubt it.
Doesn't seem like anything new.
Always good to see you super chat X Trash. Keep the questions coming in.
SK says, I love Super Mario Bros. Wonder so far. I'm playing with Luigi, and I do not like his voice.
Yeah, he's kind of annoying.
Rufflemutt says, finished watching Ubisoft Netflix series Captain Laserhawk. Freaking loved it. Can't wait for season 2. I'll never look at Rayman the same again. Yeah, I saw some clips of that on Twitter. I might have to go on and watch it. That's on Netflix right now, and it looks ridiculous. But apparently they're pulling from a bunch of Ubisoft's franchises. Beyond Good and Evil 2 makes an appearance in there. So it's interesting. Enjoying a good... Is that Hoya?
Hoya de Nicaragua. How's that?
Hoya?
That was amazing.
Hoya? Okay. We're still seething about Starfield. That's a drink. Okay. I don't know what that. Okay. We have African Triforce says Nintendo is on a roll right now. He might not talk as much as Phil Spencer or Jim Ryan, but Shitaro Furukawa is doing a pretty good job.
He is doing a good job.
Release the games. That's all. And then you're doing a good job. That's all. MTS says, MVG, what about Ubisoft games do you enjoy so much? I love Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, but feel like I'm in a minority.
I love Ubisoft games. You are not in a minority, my friend. I'm a big fan of all the games. I love Far Cry. I love Assassin's Creed. I love Ghost Recon. I wish they would do Splinter Cell again. Still waiting for the next Splinter Cell game, whenever that is.
It's coming.
There's something about them I just like. The Avatar game that's coming out, I really want to play it. Like, I just love that dumb Ubisoft fun that you have, where it's an open world and there's all sorts of just weird shit going on. There's like, you're just sitting at the side of a road and all of a sudden like this Jeep comes out from nowhere and starts just like starting a fight with, people on the road and stuff. I love the games. I love them all.
See, Jay Chowder says Pikmin 3. Callan Shaw Indie Game says nobody thinks Hogwarts is in Game of the Year, best-selling Game of the Year so far. I liked Hogwarts. It got a little old and repetitive towards the end, but I feel like most people now are seeing these really big games come out, and that's and also they're recent, whereas Hogwarts came out at the beginning of this year, so there's kind of that recency to these games too. But
I don't think Hogwarts can compete at all with the games that we've listed.
There's other factors why journalists won't vote for Hogwarts, even if whatever the case is.
Roy says if RE4 remake is in, Metroid Prime Remaster should be. We went over that. Charles says, should Game Awards have a remake of the year category between Metroid, Crisis Core, Dead Space, RE4, System Shock, and Advance Wars? I kind of feel like we are to that point now where we need that category, but there's a chance next year we won't need that category. That's kind of the hard thing to figure out, and then you end up with Jump Force in there for some reason. So you got to fill the spots somehow.
Fighting Game of the Year, Jump Force. Let's go.
You got to fill the spots. Let's see. This is from Pony Up. Says, can't believe y'all are snubbing Dead Space remake for RE4. Dead Space was better beat for beat.
I played it. I thought it was fine. I don't know. Like, maybe it didn't connect with me as much as other people, but
I liked RE4 more.
It was fine. Dead Space was a good game, but I don't know. Like, it just kind of came and went, and I didn't really think about it too much after I beat the game.
You know what I like about this? I'm seeing like these super chats with lists, and they're all different. Like this, AJ says Game of the Year 23 is Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, Hogwarts, Final Fantasy 16, Armor Core 6, Jedi Survivor. Haven't played Wonder yet, but none of those compared to the Grinch game. There you go.
Is that his game of the year, or do you think that's going to be the list? Because I think
that's what is what he put down
for his. That's not going to be the list.
It's a shame too, because I feel like Jedi Survivor may. I mean, what is it right now? Is that like a mid-80s game?
Mid-80s, yeah.
I feel like that game might have had a shot at a 90 if it came out in better shape. That's the thing that's a shame about it, because the game itself is good. It was just so messed up at launch.
Yeah, they fixed it now, but yeah, like they're not going to put Hogwarts and FF16 in it. They're not going to put that over like the games that we talked about, right? They're not going to do all that.
Michael asks, what title is a good entry point for Mega Man?
I don't know, John.
I'm going to say you can start with Mega Man 2. That one's fine. Mega Man 1 is still kind of, I mean, it's kind of
start
rough.
with Mega Man 1, John. Stop it.
Mega Man
1.
You could start with Mega Man 2 is where they figured it all out. There are people who really like Mega Man 3 as well. Although I did like Mega Man 6 because you got the rush arm and you punch people with it. But if you really want to try something that might be a little easier to just jump into, get the Legacy Collection. Get the first Legacy Collection, then get Legacy Collection X. Those are usually on sale for like $10 a piece. You can find them. And I would just jump in immediately to Mega Man X. Let's try it. It's still modern. It feels good to play. And I think that is a decent starting point for the story, because you can then view the Mega Man games as kind of the prequel you can go back to learn more. So I would say that. Mega Man X. Still timeless. Still works. Jorge asked, would you rank 2023 among the top years in gaming? I would.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's fantastic.
I would. I think people are going to have a hard time coming to terms that this might be the best year in gaming, because they look back and see games that were ranked 94, 95 across the board back in, I think 2001 comes up a lot. 2002. I went back and looked. Some of those games have like 25 reviews. Spider-Man got reviewed 130 times.
Yeah, the reviews market obviously wasn't as big back then, so you can't do like a one-to-one comparison. But if you just look at like the impact of the games that were released back then, it's pretty like that PS2, launch or right afterwards. That was pretty good.
I can't necessarily say it's absolutely the best year in gaming, because it's subjective, obviously, and people are going to have different opinions on it, but it's up there. I will say it's definitely... I'm going to say it's top 3 personally, but
I think it's probably the best in the time that I've been alive. So
there you go.
Hey, if that means anything, which I'm sure it doesn't, but
12 years. So, I mean, that's good.
I think you've been aware.
12 is crazy.
This is from Cody. It says you can see on X how Insomniac mixed up Cuban flag for Puerto Rican flag in Miles' apartment. The flags are similar, but colors inverted. I was not aware of that. Now I know. All right, let's jump over to Analogue. There is an Analogue 3D that's been announced. This is basically a new N64 that is going to be FPGA based for 2024. They are looking for 4K visuals for controller slots, so you'll be able to use your standard N64 controllers. And they did this weird tease for what looked like an 8-bit DOE controller. I guess that's going to release alongside of it. So good news for, I guess, people who are looking for even new N64 controllers as well. This was interesting because the CEO had an interview and essentially said Nintendo wouldn't be able to create a better system if they tried than what they're doing, which sounds like something a CEO would say who wants to put their system over. But they announced the thing without showing us what it can do exactly. So I'm going to hold judgment for when they show it, because they're talking a big game over there, MEG. You have the Mr. FPGA core, or the core, right? It's set up like that for N64. How is that thing looking? Because I feel like that could give us an indication as to what we're dealing with this thing.
So the Mr. FPGA core is an open source community core that has been developed It's been in development for a while now, and it's moving along very, very quickly. As far as how it runs, it looks like an HDMI modded N64. So, John, I know you have like the Ultra HDMI thing on your end.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like. So it doesn't do any type of like upscaling or anything like that. The whole goal of the Mister is really just to give you as accurate as possible representation of the original hardware in FPGA form, right?
You had some screenshots up on your Twitter, didn't you?
Yeah, so I was testing some games, and the reason why I was looking at the Mr. FPGA is for this reason. So I'm actually doing a video on the Mr. Core because I am very interested in the Analogue FPGA 3D thing that they've announced. Obviously, as a big fan of the N64, but I wanted to see what the Mr. Core, how far along that was, and I was actually quite surprised that it's a lot further along than I thought. It's definitely it's still kind of in beta, so they haven't moved it into the mainline set of Mr. Cores that you get when you install it. So you just have to go to the guy's GitHub page and install it manually. But I tested probably about 30 games, and we're looking at about maybe 60% compatibility right now. Some games don't work, but some games that you expect that probably wouldn't load actually do run. Like Resident Evil 2, for example, is one game that I know has always had some issues with emulators and stuff like that. That comes up just fine. So I think overall it's very, very interesting tech because we kind of felt like the Mister, like the Altera chip that's in the Mister, in the DE10 Nano, the board that you get when you buy a Mister, we kind of felt like it was never going to get beyond something like PlayStation. I know there's Sega Saturn, there's a core for that as well, but we never really felt like N64 was attainable because it just, number one, there wasn't really, it didn't seem like there was enough memory, and it didn't seem like the Altera chip had enough to handle the N64, but we've been proven wrong. So looking at that makes me kind of think about what Analogue is doing with their product. And I do want to stress that the Analogue 3D stuff has nothing to do with the Mister stuff. They're completely separate projects for separate different, types of people, because the Mister stuff is kind of community-driven, open source type stuff, kind of hobbyists. And then the Analogue stuff, as we all know, they make like 10 of these things, right? So they're more kind of boutique for I'll say a collector market or an enthusiast market for retro gaming, because you're going to get the best kind of experience with a product like that. So the Analogue product. Yeah, Chris Tabor, the CEO of Analogue, he does talk a big game. He's kind of known for saying a lot of things. He said a lot of things previously with the different like the Mega SG and all that stuff. But 4K apparently internally, so that's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like. I think you could probably get a sense of how that would look like if you got any kind of reputable N64 emulator and internally bump the resolution to to target 4K. I think you'd get a sense of what it would look like, and I think it would look really good. But you also have to remember that this is Nintendo 64, and the kind of the low res anti-aliasing and the blurriness of the whole hardware is really going to be interesting to see what that looks like when it does get scaled to 4K, because in a lot of instances it kind of brings out some of the mistakes and the blemishes in the games. And like I think a good example is like GoldenEye on the Xbox, where they released that on the Series X. It does look better, but you also notice there's like these clipping issues and like texture seams and Z fighting and all this sort of stuff that's going on. So but look, I'm pretty excited about FPGA technology anyway, and I'm pretty psyched about this Analogue 3D. I'm going to try to get one with the Pocket, the Analogue Pocket. They did send me a review unit, so I'm hoping I can get a review unit for this, but I'm also not going to chance it. I'm just going to try to pre-order one and see if I can get one. But very exciting stuff.
Yeah, they mentioned that they were going to have the ability to either stick with the stock performance, so like 9 frames per second or something like that on GoldenEye, or apparently you can overclock it and it will smooth out any frame rate issues with it. So it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of options. It really feels like there's a lot of promises being made with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get too hyped about it because, like, I have an idea about what it's going to look like and how it's going to perform in my head, and it's going to be great. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, Analog make quality products, but I mean, at the end of the day, this still is the N64, right? So, it's not going to just miraculously look so much better than what it does. It's going to look crisper and cleaner. And like you said, John, it may run faster if there's overclocking and stuff like that. But ultimately, you're still playing Nintendo 64 games at the end of the day. So I think there's a limit to, what they can hype up here because you're still playing, N64. So
I'll give a shout out to Dark Type, new member. Thank you, Dark Type. Yeah, the other thing, MVG, is they mentioned that the anti-aliasing thing that the N64 does, you can turn that off, apparently.
You can actually turn that off in the Mr. Core as well. And there are some settings in the Mr. Core. You can turn off the dithering. You can turn off the bilinear filtering. You can turn off the anti-aliasing. So there are some things that make it look different and interesting. I don't know, though. Like, I think it's definitely going to be something that you want to kind of mess with on a game-by-game basis. Some of them look better. Some of them look worse, in my opinion. Like I said, a lot of the times they would use anti-aliasing and kind of low-textured filters and have that blurriness about it to kind of hide some of these things. I mean, the developers weren't intentionally, making mistakes or anything like that. It's just the nature of the N64 being so kind of low-res. So, you expand all that and you blow it up to 4K internally. You need some tricks to really kind of hide some of the blemishes and texture issues that undoubtedly are in some of the N64 games that are out there.
What's the price, MVG?
So, I mean, this is going to use a new chip. So I think traditionally Analog has used the same FPGA chip in all their products going back to the NT Mini or the Super NT, whatever it's called. So this is going to be more expensive, John. I like to think that it's not going to be any more than $299. But again, this is Analog. It's an enthusiast market. People are going to buy. This is going to sell out in like five seconds, honestly, right? Yeah. So I think it's probably going to be $350. Could even be $400.
I think it's going to be $400.
It could be. It could be.
But I mean, it might be the best shot at playing an N64 with decent visuals on a big screen TV. I just want to see what it looks like at this point. I'm curious. So. Yeah,
me too. And I think, a lot of it I want to test because I'm pretty familiar with what games struggle with emulation.
Okay, that's a good point.
Look, even though it is FPGA, it's hardware-based emulation, right? Like I know
they say no emulation.
They no emulation, but let's be very clear. It's still emulation, but it's in FPGA. It's in hardware, right? So when you get a human involved to approximate a piece of hardware like the N64, there's going to be some differences. It's not going to be a one-to-one a one-to-one thing between the original hardware and FPGA. There's going to be some differences, which means that some games may have some issues. So it's going to be interesting to see what the compatibility is going to be like. I'm sure it's going to be very, very high, but there's always going to be some edge cases. And N64 is notorious for having a lot of games that just don't work right or have some glitches or some issues via emulation. You need a really powerful system, PC or whatever, to emulate some N64 games. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of it.
What do you think's next after N64?
Honestly, I think PlayStation 1 is after N64.
Oh, okay, interesting.
There's also there's a Mr. Core for PlayStation 1. So I think PS1 is probably going to be next. The only thing that I'm curious about is how they're going to get around the Sony BIOS for that. But, I think they'll probably just build their own replacement for it.
About Dreamcast?
Dreamcast is probably something that's going to happen, but I think there's like there's a pecking order of things. Like I don't think he can just go from N64 to Dreamcast. I think
I'd be interested in that. That actually could look really good if they have it set up for 4K.
I think they'll probably go to PlayStation from here, maybe Saturn, because there's also a Saturn FPGA core out there as
I'd
well.
buy that. I'd buy Saturn.
And then maybe Dreamcast. But the thing I really want after N64 or even before Analog, please give it to me, is I want Game Boy Advance, I want GBA with a GBA form factor. Like I want a GBA mini or a GBA Pocket. That's what I want, right?
Right, because the one we have now, it's not set up great for Game Boy. It's set up well for Game Boy. I see what you're saying. You want that wide kind of form factor to it.
Yeah, just give me a GBA mini. That would be, or GBA Pocket. That would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah, the future's interesting for these FPGA systems now that we're breaking into kind of the 3D side with the N64. So curious about pricing. We're going to see that 2024. So I'm wondering if this is in first half, second half. I don't know. A lot of questions still.
Is the main draw of this that you can play these games in like 4K?
Yeah, and on a modern display. So like with an N64, there's no real easy way to plug them into a HD TV via HDMI. You need to either get a internal mod, which what John has, the Ultra HDMI. You want to see
what that looks like? I have a video of me installing
it. Number one, they're very expensive, and number two, they're never in stock. So you have to usually pay someone to do it if you don't know how to do it yourself. There's also, Eon has the Super 64. They have like an adapter that converts the composite or S-video to HDMI, and that works okay. It's not a bad product, but you know what you're getting there. So really, yeah, the draw here is that you're going to be able to play old N64 cartridges on a modern television at 4K. I think that's what they're going for.
Yep. So, and it just comes down to, are people willing to pay for it? And based on the fact that some games themselves are $400 in the retro scene, people will probably pay for it. So, but it comes down to availability with Analog. We'll see how that launch goes for them. I assume not well.
There'll be 100. They'll make 100 of them like they always do, and then people will just be fighting for the scraps trying to get a hold of one. So I think that hopefully they realize the demand for this is very high and they actually have enough units to go around, but they never seem to. So I don't really see why they do now. In fact, I think part of me feels like it's part of their marketing to do this, you know, to
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Just to draw up hype.
Draw up hype, draw up FOMO, get as many people on a pre-order list or a waiting list as they possibly can, which sucks. But hopefully they have enough to go around this time.
Yeah, see, Charles saw the N64 preview. I have two other systems I'm doing HDMI mods for right now, actually. They're just in limbo, right? I'm waiting for part to arrive. All right. Let's talk about Starfield. This is interesting. We got the MPD sales charts for the month of September. It actually topped the sales charts. Weird, because that was a day one Game Pass release, and it seemed to confuse a lot of people when these charts came out, because I don't think anyone was expecting a game that launched in a subscription service day one to then also be the best seller in the US for September.
Yeah, but they had that early access thing, right? A lot of people bought the early access.
They did. So it kind of feels like
just counted up everybody who bought. People were excited for it. The game was highly anticipated, and everybody who bought all this stuff, you know, for that.
I think it's because there's the belief that if a game launches in Game Pass day one, that no one buys it. I feel like that's kind of the thought process I see online, and I guess that's why people are surprised. I don't know.
And I see that thought process, but I don't know why people think it's like a black or white, like it's a be all end all. Yes, Game Pass will affect some games in terms of sales. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Literally, Microsoft even thinks that. Mm-hmm. Like Microsoft's emails even think that. So I don't know why people are saying, "What?" Like it's like, dude, Microsoft even knows that it affects their sales. Like it's just the thing. But when you have a game this big, you know, and that you put on sale early, and that it's Bethesda, yeah, that's going to shoot up on their sales. There's going to be people who don't have Game Pass that are just going to buy the game outright too. So I mean, yeah, it makes sense for a game like this. Whenever if there's a like normal Halo that comes out and they do the same thing, Halo will be number one as well, or Gears of War can be number one in that. Like if they do the same thing they did with Starfield, you know? So I don't understand why there was confusion. I thought it was going to sell really well because of, I know that there's digital plus the Game Pass premium stuff, but yeah, games can have decreased sales if they're on Game Pass. We've seen the leaked numbers of other games that have been on Game Pass compared to the sales on PlayStation and Nintendo. They're much lower on Xbox. We've seen stuff like Persona. We've seen other games that came on Game Pass. The sales are lower on if it's on Game Pass compared. Some people just wait for Game Pass. They don't buy the game on X. They just wait for Game Pass and play it. And if it doesn't come to Game Pass, they're not buying it. You know, like
that's what I do.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't understand why this is like such a hotly debated topic. Like, it doesn't need to be controversial. It really doesn't.
You know what's really interesting about this?
Yeah.
This is the first time since Oblivion that Bethesda has topped an NPD sales chart.
Wow.
Is that weird to you? I saw that
I didn't know
statistic.
That.
I had no idea. It was at Starfield launch day 1 into Game Pass. It topped the sales charts, and they've never done that before with the title. So it was a little weird to see that one.
I mean, I think Starfield was the most hyped game this year, or one of the most hyped games this year. We've known about its development for a long time. They give you that early access that first week where you can play it. They say early, whatever. It was always going to sell a lot of copies. Like I ended up getting a review copy, but if I didn't, I probably would have bought an early access as well because I really wanted to play it. Like when it came out, people really liked it, reviewed well. So I just felt like, Microsoft, even though a lot of people don't like that whole concept of early access because they feel like it's a little scummy or something. I don't know what the word is. I think it's a very, very smart marketing tactics, especially for big games. Not every game is going to sell as much as Starfield in early access, like Forza. Even though that came out, that had an early access period, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure that sold okay, but it's not selling. I don't think it's selling anywhere near as much as what Starfield was. And did Redfall have an early access period as well?
It did. Yeah, you have the bite back edition. You can get it early.
So I mean, they're always gonna offer that for their first party games, and I think a lot of times they'll sell a lot of copies, and it will top sales charts. But yeah, I mean, Starfield was kind of too big to ignore. I think it was always gonna sell a lot no matter what.
I feel like this is the new thing for them now going forward. They're consistently going to do these early access periods.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, people don't really seem to like it. And I understand because basically that's when the game can come out, but they're walling it all for 5 days and they're like, pay us extra money and you can get it now.
Yeah. I mean,
wait.
what's the next game? Hellblade 2 is probably the next first party game, right? I mean, they're going to give you a week of early access on that as well. And a lot of people are going to just want to buy that and try it out for themselves, especially if it reviews well, So, it's something that, like I said, a lot of people don't like the early access kind of model, but Microsoft's pretty smart. They know what they're doing here with this stuff.
Yeah, I think because they did with Forza just now, like it just recently happened with Forza. And I admit it's probably going to be the same thing with Hellblade, as you mentioned here. So
John, what happens when Call of Duty goes early access for a week?
I feel like Call of Duty is going to go early access for a week.
It is.
And that's going to be interesting when that happens.
I mean,
that's going to pull a lot of money because let's be real, people are going to go crazy for that.
Phil said Call of Duty is available everywhere, but he didn't say when it was available. I think if you give Xbox,
I see what you're saying.
If you give Xbox that early access week, I think that's something they may actually do.
You think they're going to do that like with just Xbox, huh? Not do it for PlayStation as well? You think they're just going to do just through Game Pass Xbox?
Yeah, yeah, and they just told Sony, hey, we'll put Game Pass on PlayStation when you're ready to talk to us.
That's interesting.
We'll give you Call of Duty.
They're gonna hold it up like that, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's probably not a week, but let's say 3 days of early access, right? Whatever that. What's the window? It's not like 7 days. It's like 4 days or 5 days for early access. I think, is what you get. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see them, opening up early access for Call of Duty on Game Pass, and then everyone else gets it, a few days later.
It worked really well with Starfield because it was a massive Bethesda title, and Call of Duty is a very competitive game where people will pay a lot of money to get in early to get a jump start on it. I'm more curious when it's a game that's not as over as something like that. Like you said, Hellblade 2, that'll be an interesting one. Maybe a Fable, something like that. But this seems to be the strategy for Microsoft. Launch it, quote unquote, early by 5 days, and then put it into Game Pass at the end of it and collect money.
This is what you got to do. If you're going to do subscription service gaming and sell people, that you can't just, and like we talked about this, right? About Microsoft has to find ways to monetize this more than just saying, here's this. You got to raise prices. You've got to find ways to get more money because these games aren't getting any cheaper. The model doesn't like charging. How much is Game Pass? $10 or $14?
$16.99, I think.
16
Ultimate.
And then you have Activision, you have Bethesda, you have Fable, you have Gears, you have Halo. So you're gonna just do all that for $16 a month? That there's no way in hell. Like, it doesn't add up. How are you gonna pay employees? How are you gonna keep the lights on? The math just doesn't add up. You got to do other things to make more money here. So yeah, I can see them doing that, and that's part of it. You want all this stuff on there. There's going to be early access. There's going to be price increases. There's going to be all that. So
I think they're betting on the fact that if somebody who usually buys 2 games a year at most will end up paying more in this subscription than they would just buying the 2 games at $140 then. So yeah. I feel like that's it. So if somebody ends up buying 4 games a year and they're all going into this, then technically they would make out pretty well. But I feel like most people who buy a Madden or a Call of Duty every year and then also have Game Pass because Call of Duty is going in, they're probably spending more money than they would normally anyway. So I feel like that's kind of the strategy by Microsoft right now. And I think this is one of the reasons that I feel like the Netflix comparison comes up a lot. I just don't think Game Pass compares well to Netflix because Netflix can't sell things to people on their service. They just collect that subscription. That's it. Whereas we're watching Microsoft top a sales chart in the US with a product while also putting it in their subscription service. So
yeah, that is interesting. I mean, the differentiator there, like you said, is the early access plus the ability just to buy the game outright. I mean, you get that little discount as well if you just purchase it via Game Pass. And I've bought games via deep discount before that were on Game Pass that were advertised as cheaper. I've definitely done that before as well. So yeah, I mean, you're right. Netflix doesn't have anything like that. You just watch movies whenever you want to watch movies. You can't purchase them.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, and we'll see with Activision Blizzard brought in, as you said, OJ, generally when you have more and more stuff like that come in, prices have to go up somewhere. So maybe they do just raise price on the subscription. Maybe they just keep doing more of these early access things and it works out for them that way.
They will do both.
There you go.
Netflix keeps raising prices and
they just did. I think they just raised prices again. It's like $21 or something now.
Everyone is raising prices.
It's crazy out
here. It's getting competitive in terms of the market, human resources. People are getting paid more, inflation, blah, 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 blah. You guys all know the same thing. So yes, prices will go up. Yes, they will do more early access. Yes, all that stuff is happening.
I'm proud. And then it just goes back down because there's so many huge services that people stop paying for all of them. But it's probably a little bit.
It's not going back down.
That'd just be so nice.
It's not going back down because now they have to add all of the Activision Blizzard stuff. They have to incorporate that, right? They have to get that set in. So that's you spent 70 billion, 80 billion, whatever it was. Yeah, you got to make that back. So
69 billion.
69 billion. There you go. So yeah, you gotta raise the prices of things in order for it to still work and for people to get paid all their money. I mean, Phil ain't going in there for free. Executives aren't working for free. They're getting paid, guys. So there's also that.
I want to go over to, this was actually something MVG was part of. That has to do with the Nintendo Switch 2, the fabled next generation system from Nintendo that we hope is coming out next year, but who knows? Maybe they'll run this thing for 10 years straight because it keeps selling. So we'll see. But Nate, and MVG, because you were there for it, you were present, reported that the next system will be leveraging ray reconstruction, which is mostly DLSS 3.5. MVG, you've had experience actually using this with something like Cyberpunk, and it works pretty well when it comes to getting good or at least decent performance still out of ray tracing, which I still think ray tracing is still kind of early on in its life and working all that out, and even convincing consumers that it's worth the trade-off. But Cyberpunk is a pretty good example of it showing out pretty well. However, with ray reconstruction, the biggest takeaway that Nate made is that this is a very custom chip that is going to be increasingly harder and harder to compare to anything else on the market right now, which is exciting for me because I really like the Tegra chip. It's been going back to when it first came around to where it is now. I think it's fascinating to see what NVIDIA could come up with here, because they have a place for it now, and they've never had a place for this chip, ever. They've tried it in phones, tablets. They almost had it in the 3DS. It's been all over the place, but now they have it. Ray reconstruction. MVG, so, you're the developer here.
For the record, Nate was the one that broke the news. He reported it. I have no idea where he got that info from. He probably heard it from his...
He didn't get it from MVG. Go on.
Yeah, he got it from his various sources that he has. He has a lot of sources out there. But I think it makes a lot of sense to me that it will have ray reconstruction. I mean, there was some talk, if you go back and talk about the Gamescom behind closed doors presentation of the Matrix demo that we were told about. A lot of people, I think there was some feedback that it looked really good, like even better than, like the PlayStation 5 one or something, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with the kind of the more modern ray tracing techniques that this new SoC potentially is going to provide us with. I say potentially because, look, honestly, we have no freaking idea what this SoC is going to be, but we're only speculating at this point based on reports and all that stuff. But I think, like you said, John, a lot of it has to do now with this new SoC is not going to be the most powerful chip. That was never the intention of that. It was never the intention of the Tegra X1 either. In fact, as you know, they kind of downclocked it significantly, right? Compared to where it kind of normally runs if you compare it to like an NVIDIA Shield. So they downclocked it, to get more battery life out of it, right? So I think what we're probably going to see with the new Switch is it's going to just work a lot smarter rather than just be a powerful chip, right? So we're going to have things like DLSS in there. We're going to have reconstruction. We're going to have 4K via DLSS. There's also, I think Nate also talked about, faster loading, right? Or, fast loading, like at the Gamescom stuff, right? So there was talk about that. So you combine all these kind of features, fast loading, DLSS, 4K via reconstruction. All of a sudden, you've got a system that kind of, you can put it next to the PS5 and the Xbox and say, you know what, that doesn't look like smeared Vaseline anymore. That actually looks pretty damn comparable, And I think that's what Nintendo, I believe, is going for with this generation or this next generation. They want their games to look better on 4K displays, because right now, there are some games that look fantastic on 4K, like Mario Wonder, Luigi's Mansion. There are definitely games that look great even today, but they want to kind of just compare with what we're seeing with modern 4K visuals. So I think they're doing all the right things. And look, honestly, they've really having NVIDIA as a partner right now and a partner for the foreseeable future, where the competition is with AMD. Like Nintendo's like they're in the driver's seat with this stuff, because NVIDIA is leading the way with this DLSS stuff. AMD FSR is fine. There's nothing wrong with FSR2, and I think FSR3 also is a good iteration. But DLSS is far and away.
Level.
Yeah, it's on another level. So and NVIDIA is definitely and Nintendo is definitely going to tap into that that aspect of what NVIDIA has. So yeah, very, very exciting times for the Switch 2.
I'm thinking of Mario Wonder now, 4K ray tracing all set up. That would look pretty good. They better have backwards compatibility figured out. Anyway, The interesting thing is, and Nate had mentioned this to me in passing, the idea that some of these comparisons could come up as the PS5 and the Xbox Series look great resolution wise. But man, that Switch 2, the ray tracing is just better on it. That's going to sound really weird when stuff like that comes up. If it really is to that point, it's going to make for some just very strange situations when we start putting these games next to each other. But it does make me think that, based on what I see from people's reaction, we're still in that phase where people are shocked that Nintendo may have something that's somewhat technologically advanced compared to the field. And people still just look at Nintendo as the company that puts like 2 twigs and a piece of gum together to make their system.
make kiddie consoles or whatever.
And I do kind of feel like this system's going to show up, and we're going to hear some of the stuff about it, and they're going to show some stuff. And I kind of feel like there's going to be like 1 or 2 games where people are, I don't say confused, but like somewhat shocked about it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get into next year because I think that's when we see the system, and I think it's going to be a fun 6 to 8 months run up to it. And I think things like this with ray reconstruction will play into it. And I'm more excited to see what Nintendo can do with this stuff first party wise. And I'd be curious if Nintendo decides to market this in any way similar to what they did with advanced haptic feedback, which they labeled HD Rumble. Do you market ray tracing and Nintendo it up or something?
Yeah, I think you do. I don't know what you would call it, whether you use the word ray tracing or maybe there's some new marketing term that they provide for it. But I think so. Like, I mean, if you have 4K, if you have ray tracing, if you have, significantly faster loading, then those features you definitely want to market, right? As a more powerful Switch, right? Or whatever they do. So I think so. I mean, you don't come to the table with a new chip which has advancements in technology and kind of just don't really promote them as much. But on the flip side of that, Nintendo, they do what they do, man. Like, who knows, what they're going to say. But I would expect that they would probably do that.
Yeah, I've realized I think I might be kind of spoiled now in games because when I go back to playing a game on the Switch, a load screen comes up and I'm just like immediately annoyed. Hey, we're to the point where you don't really see load screens as much anymore in gaming, and it's very interesting to be to that in that position. So you mentioned faster loading. I think when we get there with the next system, and we can basically say goodbye to like any long load times, it's a world I want to be in. So, what do you think, Josie? Ray reconstruction. I know you were thinking about it the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, honestly. I mean, I know what MVG has said. I think it's cool, and I'm curious as to how they might Nintendo it up. I don't know if they can really like market it as well as they marketed HD Rumble, because everybody sort of knows Rumble and it's pretty simple to understand, and it's just like a little better, right? Basically.
Yeah, it's most like you're gonna see, for example, Reflections is like the big thing that's easy to
what if they just call it like Nintendo Realistic Vision or something? And then they do that thing where they just they pan across and there's like the old footage and then there's the new one. We call it Real Vision. There you go.
It's going to be interesting. I got to know what they call it. Yeah, because they'll put it on the back of the box. They'll do all this stuff with it.
Powered by NVIDIA Real Vision or something.
I think they'll just say it looks shiny. Like, hey, shinier graphics.
Shiny edition.
I think they'll just say, yo, the graphics look shinier. Like, cool, huh?
I like Mario Wonder looks good now. You start putting all these advanced technologies into it. I mean, I hope they go back and revisit some of these old games through backwards compatibility with patches, because there's a lot they'd be leaving on the table then with some of those games, Tears of the Kingdom and others. So that's my biggest hope, is that they do have that figured out, and that might be why we've waited so long for some sort of upgrade. Or I mean, this is the longest Nintendo's gone, to my understanding, without any kind of mid-gen refresh, upgrade, anything.
This is the longest. This is the longest they've went, because it's going to stretch till next year. So that'll be, 8 calendar years?
We'll be in the 8th year before the system comes out. Yeah.
So that's the longest that they've went. Outside of maybe Game Boy, right? Like Game Boy. think it was like 80, 89 to.
Yeah. Took a long time. That was like almost 10 years. Yeah, right.
Game Boy Color, you can say, yeah, that's the new system. But if you want to say like completely something different, GBA, which would be 2000 or 2001 was, I think it was 2000.
Yeah.
Forgot when GBA was. But yeah, so that'd probably be like the last longest one without, that's just a straight portable compared to now like hybrids. So in terms of anything that's considered a home console, yeah, this is the longest that they've went.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that it actually comes out. Nintendo doesn't do something crazy and just not give it to us.
Unless you want to say like the Famicom, the Super Famicom, because I know it came out in Japan earlier, so maybe that was almost as long. But yeah,
it's been a while. People are ready. We're ready.
We're ready. So. Everyone's ready, man. I think at this point, just get all the games that you want to get out, right, and then just like get ready to launch it with whatever big Mario or.
It does feel like Super Mario Wonder was like their big mainstream game that was left. I know there's still Peach or Princess Peach coming up, Super Mario RPG, but Wonder is probably going to outsell all of that combined, right?
That's big. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, I don't want to say confirms because nothing is confirmed, but like it really just makes you think that there's probably a 3D Mario game launching with this new system. Otherwise, they would have just held Wonder back for the new system. Like, yeah, you could release it now and still going to sell a shitload of units, but you could also drop Wonder as a launch title if there was no other Mario game, which is obviously something I feel like they have.
Yeah, that would have been a killer launch title too, right? Like having Mario Wonder on Switch and Switch 2 right there at launch. I mean, that would have been incredible too. So
it's really funny. I've noticed that a lot of people have just started to forget about Metroid Prime 4 and I don't see it ever really coming up anymore. I feel like that might be a nice little surprise at the next Direct, and it's like, oh, we're at Metroid Prime 4. That's right.
It's going to be the next Switch. It's got to be a Switch 2 title.
It's got to be
cross-gen.
Yeah, it's got to be a cross-gen at this
point.
Ray
Reconstruction, Samus is so shiny. I mean,
super shiny Samus.
All falls into place. There it is, shiny edition. Yeah, Real Vision.
Real Vision.
People have been wondering when the next time you could see Nintendo mention anything outside of Doug Bowser dodging and weaving these different questions. I would say probably November 7th, November 8th, you're going to see Nintendo with their 6-month earning, and then they'll probably dodge and weave questions from investors. But I will say,
he was looking like the Matrix there. He was looking like Neo at once.
Yeah, if Nintendo is truly like, okay, we're full speed ahead on the next system, Mario Wonder is out, maybe they dropped a little hint or something there. I don't know. We'll see. That's
the funny thing is that they still have like a number of like Switch. And yes, they're not like big new games. Princess Peach is the only new game, but they still have like a number of games coming out next year. Like with Thousand Year Door Remake, that's like still really huge for people. There's Luigi's Mansion 2, there's Princess Peach game, there's like another Code. There's like actually like a number like 5 or 6 games that I think that they have coming out next year that are already kind of like set in.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. So look towards that, the next investor stuff. First week of November. See if anything pops up. And I do want to quickly recognize Pete Hines announces retirement. I saw MVG in there congratulating 24 years at Bethesda.
He's an OG, man. He's been around for a while.
99, I think. 24 years. Yep. Wow, that is Yeah, I think people were reading into this more than they probably needed to. I think he's just ready to finish up and call it a career. So I think that's basically it. And I mean, at this point, he either stays on, I assume, and starts work on Elder Scrolls 6 that might not be out for another 6 years, or he goes, I'm good. I'm out, guys. Starfield's out. That, which Starfield apparently was like a 20-year, some crazy long project because it was conceptualized as let's make a game in space. And then they were like, not on the original Xbox. All right, someday then. And that was it. So
I think a lot of people read too much into these types of things like, oh, what happened? Was he fired? Is there a story behind this? But like I treat Jim Hines' retirement the same way I treat Pete Hines' retirement the same way as Jim Ryan's retirement. Right. And that is, I think you nailed it, John. That is, they just shipped Starfield and now he doesn't really want to hang around for another game life cycle, which is going to be 6-7 years for the next Elder Scroll game. So you probably thought, yeah, Starfield's done. It's shipped. It's sold extremely well. I'm gonna go out. Like he's been around for a long time. Jim Ryan was the same. I feel like he saw the launch of the PS5, and Sony's probably internally, thinking about the next system. They're already probably ramping up on the next system. So he was probably like, it's time for me to step away. So I just, I think both of them were just retirements. At the end of the day, I don't think there was really anything beyond that.
Yeah, I agree. I think people just want to make up some crazy narrative to make it dramatic every single time something like this happens. And for most of them, it's just time for them to retire. They have enough money that they can do it.
I will tell you, I'm 50. I'm going to work probably for 10 more years, and I'm
MVG's out.
I'm out. You can make up all sorts of rumors and BS you want, but the reality is I'm cashing out. I'm done. So
I'll keep it a buck. If I could retire now, I would. So I'm just like, I imagine if I was them. I mean, literally a dead ass. I would have retired right now if I could. So I want to retire. So I can only imagine having to deal with all the stuff that those guys deal with.
Yeah, I feel like being at the top of a game company, whether you're marketing or a publisher or you're working at the top, that probably ages you very rapidly. So
it does.
Probably exhausting. People are such horrible people online, so it's probably like, thank God I'm out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that, bro. I can't wait till I retire. The day that I do, I'm gonna be like, deuce. I'm out. I'm playing video games. If I have grandkids by then, I'm playing with them. I ain't doing the damn thing. I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. I'm out. So I think that's what they're doing. Let me go hang out with my fam. I'm tired of all this BS, with games and how people are. Because like P. Hines, he's marketing. So I mean, he sees it all. He has to deal with it all. Like Jim Ryan's got to deal with everybody talking and all this Phil Spencer stuff and buying actors. And he's just like, oh God, please. If it was me, I'd be like, man, our main competitors just bought Bethesda, one of our partners that we work with, and they bought. I'm like, man, I'm already, how much do I got? I got all this equity in here. I'm out. I'm good. Like PS5's launching and still doing good. Hand it off to somebody else. Just like when Reggie retired too, right? Reggie retired. He's just like, I'm out. Switch is good. I'm good. I got money. I'm out.
Let's finish up with some of the super chats here. We have SK says Deus Ex 2000 is the greatest game ever. Greatest ever game. That was a good one. Let's see. This is Donald Trump. Tremendous Stakes says, "What's the best generation of console?" I say 6th gen.
That's a good pick.
I would say 6th gen as well.
I also don't mind the 360 PS3 generation either. I think that PS2, GameCube, Xbox generation was just a nice moment.
I love how you just forget about the Dreamcast, John.
Dreamcast.
Sega forgot about that system too. So
they had no choice.
Yeah, forgot about that system real quick. That was just a nice moment in time. Mostly because people weren't online yelling at each other all the time. They were, just not as much as it is now.
They were, just not like it is now. The access was not there.
I'd say 7th gen.
There you go. DIY Dell says, food reviews, good laugh at DIY Dell. Working towards 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Made daily videos for last year. Check out
You can do it, DIY Dell. Everyone go sub to DIY Dell right now. Link your channel in the chat. DIY Dell.
Dark Type says, haven't picked up Spidey 2 yet, but I've been playing Wonder, and it's the most fun I've had since Odyssey. Great stuff, Nintendo. Keep it up. Will EverDrive 64 work on it? I assume the Analogue.
On the Analogue? That's a good question. Normally, they do behave well with Analogue products. I'm thinking about the Pocket and like the Mega SG. I don't see why not. It shouldn't work. I don't think they're going to deliberately try to lock it out or anything like that. I think it should just work.
Yeah, I use whatever the EverDrive thing is for the Pocket with the Game Boy Advance SD card. I use that and it works fine, so I haven't had any issues with that one. This is from Brian. What are your thoughts about the RetroTink 4K? I don't know. I don't have it.
I don't have one either. I heard they're $1,000, but I'm hopefully going to review one at some point.
I'm probably going to have to end up buying one.
I'll let you know my thoughts when that happens.
I'll let you know my real thoughts then, because I had to buy $1,000 converter by now. It looks good though. Like I've seen the results from, I think John Linneman has posted up a couple of them. I want to make sure I'm crediting the right person.
Yep.
It looks really good. Like it is high quality stuff. So I know it's definitely a niche product technically, but you definitely get the quality when you pay out that kind of money.
Well, I have the 5X Pro right here, and I love that thing. That thing just rocks.
There you go. Red Eye says, do you think that the Analogue 64 will include Rumble Pack and memory card within the controller, and will there be a Game Boy transfer port included on the for like Pokemon Stadium? I that controller's interesting because it's from 8-Bit Do, I believe. So they didn't show the back of the controller. I'm not sure. Good question though.
I would say it probably has built-in Rumble.
Yeah,
the memory pack stuff is probably going to be on the device itself potentially. They'll do it that way. Like on the Mister, there is a memory pack option on the Mister core itself. So it just like creates a file on the SD card for you. So it kind of simulates a memory pack. So I would expect a similar thing here with the Analogue N64.
I have to see what the plug looks like for the console, because I have seen at times where you get the dongle, and then on that it also has a slot for a memory card. I've seen that before with some of these third-party controllers, so I'm not sure the route 8-Bit Do is going to go, but maybe I can reach out to them and get comment on it. I assume they will just say no comment, but you can always try. Let's see. Zoob says, Starfield, yet Xbox can't outsell PlayStation hardware. They cannot. The PlayStation continues to roll. Let's see. CJ says, do you think Sony will follow the early access trend? Probably. You know when they'll do it is with these live service games. That wouldn't shock me. The live service games might end up with that. But if the money is there, the market's saying it works. So I feel like most corporations are understanding this, and they're probably going to take shots at it. So let's see. Juice Man Vaughn says, lock it in. Prime 4 is going to look phenomenal on Switch 2.
Prime 4 needs to come out first.
You think okay? You think it needs to come out first? I don't. As long as it comes out on the current Switch, because that is where it was marketed and promised to. I don't mind if it's cross-gen. If it just comes out when the next system comes out, kind of like Breath of the Wild, that was on the Wii U and the Switch same time. Don't mind it as long as it's on that Switch and they make it work. But Retro Studios though, using that new hardware, I got a lot of faith in them. I think they could do some pretty cool stuff. Let's see. Pridery says, do you think they will launch with $70 Mario? Yes, I think the next 3D Mario is 70.
If it's 3D Mario, then yeah, probably.
Yep. I would expect that, and I would expect the next Mario Kart to also be 70, provided these are next generation games, as we all assume. Yes. Red Eye says, new model PS5 has remained at under $400 in the UK, an $80 disk drive, making £480. Xbox Series S also got $50 increase for a 1 terabyte storage.
That is true, but we still haven't officially been told about the new Series S yet. So, but right. That seems to be the play. So we'll have to see.
Enrique says, shout outs to OJ. He's awesome. Also a big fan of MBG. Looking forward to your project, Josie. And thank you, John, for all the daily news. Love you all, you guys.
Thanks, Enrique.
Thank you, Enrique. Thanks, okay. I think I got all of those. I will check Streamlabs just to make sure. Let me go around here, though, as I am doing that. Let's start with Josie. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at YouTube at Josie Woe. I'm like 9,500 subscribers, so I'm really close to 10K.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good time. I'm going to have a Mario Wonder video out soon and a stream for Mario Wonder as well, so check it out if you're interested in the Switch. Thank you for having me on.
You are going to get, you're going to get 10,000 subscribers then before the end of the year.
Hopefully.
Everyone go subscribe to Josie Woe. Josie, link your channel in the chat.
Okay.
It's getting close. Wow, that's impressive. I feel like you were. How many subscribers did you have in like September? I feel like you've
when
been
you guys asked me on
well.
the Spawncast, I just hit 1,000. So.
Oh wow! Okay. Good stuff. Awesome. Let's go to OJ. We're gonna find you.
Yeah, I mean, right here on YouTube, Player Essence. I just put out a video on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Gave my thoughts on the game, how much I like it compared to the previous Mario games, as I've played all of them. So check out that. Got some cool RPG videos that I'm working on. And if you're an idiot like me and like Naruto video games, I'll be having a big review and gameplay on that game, in addition to Super Mario RPG coming up, Star Ocean, and more. So if you like RPGs and Nintendo content and daily live streams, check out Player Essence. I will be here.
And then MVG.
You can find me on YouTube at Modern Vintage Gamer. I did a video on Mario Wonder, my thoughts and impressions yesterday, so check that out. If you want to learn more about the game, you probably know everything about it by now, but check it out anyway. I have a video out coming out on Monday about the Mr. FPGA N64 stuff that we were talking about on this episode. There will be a new Nate the Hate next week. I don't know what day it is, but there will be one coming out next week. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Also, I've got some plans coming up here for some Game of the Year activities that I think is going to be a lot of fun, so stay tuned for that. Something I wanted to do for a while, and I think it could be a good time, so keep an eye out as we make that announcement, probably in the next 2 weeks when I figure out a name for it. But thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we will be back here next. Make sure. Okay, yeah, good. Everything. Next Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Maybe Nate will join us finally. He's making his return at some point. So check us out next week to see if it's then. We'll see you guys later.